The findings of our comprehensive, thorough, and independent investigation, coupled with the medical examiner's determination that Mr. Gray's death was a homicide, which we received today, has led us to believe that we have probable cause to file criminal charges. To the people of Baltimore and the demonstrators across America, I heard your call for no justice, no peace. Your peace is sincerely needed as I work to deliver justice on behalf of this young man.
1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, it's the Hake Report, the Hake Report, la la la. Oh, it's the Hake Report, the Hake Report, la la la.
Hey guys!
Oh, it's the Hake Report, the Hake Report, la la la. Oh, it's the Hake Report, the Hake Report, la la la.
So, what's up guys? I'm James Hake. This is the Hake Report, and it's Tuesday, November 26th, 2019. And I just wanted to remind you who Marilyn Mosby was, or Mosby, whatever her name is. She was 35 at that time in 2015, and she was pushing charges on like 6 different cops, Baltimore cops, amidst a huge Baltimore riot in 2015 over a drug dealer getting himself killed. He ran from cops, and the cops were like, what the? And so they chased after him, tackled him. He hurt his back or something, like they severed, he messed up his spine, tackling him or something. Put him in the back of a truck, took him to the hospital or jail or somewhere. And on their way, he got even more messed up, I guess. They were accusing them of giving him a rough ride, all kinds of mess. And they were rioting, like from this, what happened May Day, which is the communist holiday, 2015. Her thing about Freddie Gray. And the reason I'm showing you this, nothing came of it, by the way. The cops, nobody was charged. All charges were dropped, I'm pretty sure, as I recall. And black cops and I think some white cops. But the whole thing was, racism, police, brutality, idiot. And she says justice. She doesn't know or care anything about justice. She's talking about social justice. She was kissing up to the rioters. So vague in the details, talking about, I guess. Yeah, this stuff happened like 4 years ago, 4.5 almost years ago, probably 4.5 years ago, with Freddie Gray getting himself killed by police, sparking another Black Lives Matter riot. And I have pictures from the riots. I just kind of made a couple of collages. Look at what these kids are doing. Trashing cars, getting on top of the cars like a bunch of monkeys. Look at that trashed car, and then cops' van on fire. Just mess. Another one, more like some kid has the riot police's broken shield with him, throwing stuff at the cops. They're poking through a window of a car. Just mess. And then, of course, Anonymous was there with the Guy Fawkes mask. Anonymous was big at the time. Anonymous being like, and I don't know if they're Antifa types or Occupy Wall Street types or what, but they were pathetic. It was so pathetic. And they're all the scrutiny on the police and no scrutiny on the blacks, of course, right? The ones that are crazy. And then no scrutiny on these stupid leaders like Marilyn Mosby. The reason I'm giving you Marilyn Mosby, a little bit of history about Mosby and her taking the side of the Black Lives Matter supporters, is because she's participating in this new thing that's helping so-called innocent people get out of prison. And I say so-called because in some cases I'm not so sure. Because you hear, and I'm sure it happens, and we actually know it happens, that people are wrongfully convicted of crimes that they didn't commit. Things like that. You're getting worse and worse, Hake. No riots, so he has to recycle old news stories. No, Marcus Jones, I'm getting to that. They are, they're letting people, there is this liberal push of like these innocence projects, right? And they're mostly run by liberals. Liberals who feel sorry for the criminals, right? And hate the police and think that it's racism and all that stuff, and hate the justice system and thinks it's racist. We know that the justice system has become more and more corrupt as the people have become more and more corrupt, and the juries have become more and more corrupt. And you saw that even with the Bill Cosby case. These like feminist judges, like the judge in the Cosby case, Bill Cosby, who was accused of and convicted, I think, of some type of sexual something with a lesbian. His wife was works with like college so-called rape victims, and it's really it's a anti-rape activist group, which is basically accusing men of rape, and you have to put that in quotes because it's all the scrutiny on the men and no scrutiny on the women. And so this case in Baltimore, this woman, Marilyn Mosby, has let out several people, maybe more than a dozen people out of prison with her team, this Innocence Project team. And I read about this, I think it was in the second hour of Hake News, top of the second hour of the Jesse Lee Peterson show today, where 3 men were exonerated after 30, according to the news, right, exonerated. It's kind of like the Central Park 5 were never exonerated, actually. But the Central Park 5 being other guys that were accused of rape and who knows what they did. But they admitted to stuff, and there was no evidence of forced confessions or anything like that, but they just make the accusation and pretend that it's real. So same thing here, apparently, because I haven't seen any evidence of forced confessions or forced testimony from witnesses, but that's what they're claiming. 3 men exonerated after 36 years behind bars for a wrongful murder conviction. And maybe they were innocent in this case, who knows? But Alfred Chestnut, Ransom Watkins, and Andrew Stewart were let out of prison, and I have a clip of that I'm going to show you in a second. But I told you about this Georgetown jacket that one guy had. His mother bought it for him. He was 16. And a 14-year-old with the same jacket was murdered, or killed anyways, shot in the neck and killed in the first Baltimore school killing that they knew of, right? Back in 1983. 3 guys take the fall for it. They go to prison, and then the mom's like, no, I bought my son this jacket. The cops said this jacket was the victim's. But there were 4 classmates that said, oh, these guys did it. And they're recanting. Today they've recanted, these witnesses, and who knows, right? And then they said, oh, some other guy did it who just conveniently died in 2002. So let me just show you more of this state's attorney, Marilyn Mosby, talking her mess about justice like you really believe her. Here's the other clip. This is from recently.
Today we stand in unison, once again in the pursuit of justice, to announce the exoneration of 3 innocent men, Andrew Stewart, Alfred Chestnut, and Ransom Walker, who have served 36 years incarcerated for a murder we now believe they did not commit.
This should have never happened to the kid. Yes. Us 3 standing here should have never happened. Yes. And like she said, somebody else got to pay for this when they do this. They just can't keep walking away, because people are still suffering. There's people in them high positions. They gotta pay for stuff when they do it like this.
I'm looking forward, man, to living the rest of my life, being humble as peaceful as I am, praising God, looking out for my family. Oh man, I'm telling you, it's out of this world. Oh, oh man, I've been always dreaming of this for this day. Been dreaming of this day.
That was a clip from the Baltimore Sun. So that was what you heard, the woman at the beginning talking about justice and all that stuff with the curly hair. Now she has curly hair. That was State's Attorney Marilyn Mosby pushing her mess about justice. And so they have this integrity project or something like that, exoneration project. And she had this program called Resurrection After Exoneration to help the men adjust after, life after prison type stuff, right? But this woman is not about justice. And this is an example of the corruption within the so-called justice system. And you saw how she, if you remember back in 2015, she prosecuted the 6 cops, and it turned out they didn't do anything wrong. Or maybe they did some stuff wrong, but nothing to be prosecuted about. Who knows? So that's just a mess. I just wanted to get that off my chest. And that's the type of people that are being put up in positions of power. Obama put in this judge who is going after Don McGahn and the Trump administration. There's this, I think I have pictures of her. This black female judge, I think it's called. And there's this black female judge. This is moving on to a different story. She was, let me pull up her name. She was considered by Obama to be the next Supreme Court nominee, but instead he selected that white man who, I call him white. I don't know if he was white or Jewish or what. But there's Don McGahn. She said that Don McGahn, who was the White House counsel under Trump for a while, has to testify to somebody, the Congress, the Democrats, basically. The Democrats are still trying to push obstruction of justice, even though Mueller couldn't explicitly say that Trump there was any evidence of obstruction. There was just things that Trump wanted to end this phony Russia investigation. Trump wanted to end the phony Russia investigation, and it turned out to be phony. And that's considered obstruction of justice. And this Don McGahn guy, I think he was a poor choice, but who else do you have, right, for these White House counsels? He didn't even want to prosecute Hillary Clinton or even investigate Hillary Clinton or James Comey, even though there was plenty of reason to investigate those two. Everybody on both sides was leery about them, to be honest. Everybody knows that Hillary Clinton is a pretty corrupt person. What exactly she's done, nobody knows. We need to investigate, right? And then James Comey is such a flip-flopper, a weak guy with no spine. He's tall, though, but no spine. Just postures himself as though he's has duty to the country and stuff like that. But McGahn didn't want this guy, Don McGahn, White House counsel, meaning a lawyer, did not want to investigate those two, because he warned Trump, oh, if you do that, it's going to look like you're investigating political rivals, which is what's happening right now, because Trump wanted to investigate Biden, who we all know is corrupt. Everybody on both sides know he's just corrupt, evil guy. No, we should get rid of career politicians, unless it's Trump. He can become a career politician, right? Because he's already had a whole career. And anyways. But Obama wanted this judge, this black female judge, to be the Supreme Court nominee. She was in the running, right? And then she picked a white man. Obama picked a white man. But luckily the Republicans didn't vote on it at all in the whole final year of his being in office. So that was nice. And so we got Gorsuch instead, Neil Gorsuch, who is a Trump nominee, and a little bit better than this woman or that Merrick guy, Merrick Garland, I guess it was the name of the Obama Supreme Court nominee. Oh yeah, this black woman judge, her name is Ketanji Brown Jackson. Ketanji Brown Jackson, and she's been in there a while. Looks like she has. Is that an iWatch? Maybe not. It is. Looks like it. Joel has one of those. Joel should be the judge, not her.
It's an Apple Watch.
It's an Apple Watch. Yeah, I call it iWatch. So, show some of the headlines. There's a couple of crazy headlines about this woman. The people. Yeah, look at this. Okay, this is from Esquire, which shouldn't even be considered a real outlet. But Esquire says, yeah, this ruling says Don McGahn must testify. It's also a heroic defense of the constitutional order. Like, Esquire cares about the Constitution. They just hate Trump. And they say in 120, it's written by this guy, Charles P. Pierce, white man, I think. In 120 pages, Judge Ketanji Brown Jackson dealt out a firm and precise A-kicking. He said he put the real word, right? No class. A-kicking to every specious argument the Trump administration has made. And so he's a kiss up to the black liberal woman. No doubt she's a liberal. But according to Politico, the DOJ wants to halt the ruling and put a stay on it. Because she says that he has to testify, but they want to appeal. So, we'll see. Whatever. That's just a little update for you about that thing. That whole situation. And oh yeah, so they want to get Don McGahn because Don McGahn, according to Wikipedia, which Wikipedia was citing New York Times and New York Magazine, these far left outlets. According to them, Don McGahn, who I take to be a Rhino Week guy, complained to Reince Priebus, who was in charge of he was like the White House chief of staff, right, at one point. He was complaining to him that Trump, the president, was trying to get him to do all kinds of crazy blank cuss word. And then Trump called him a lying bastard. And I think that you just can't, it's just hard to find good help these days, Poor Trump. Not poor Trump. He keeps pushing. I like that he complains, yet he keeps pressing on. So that's cool. Let me get to some calls. You can call in 888-775-3773. And then I want to talk about Bill Cosby, because Bill Cosby is kind of a polarizing figure. The reason I support Bill Cosby on a certain level is because, one, I think he does kind of care about what's right. He's kind of old school, so he has that. He wants what's right for the blacks, even though he is kind of into the black thing and a sucker for some of that stuff. He's kind of liberal in that sense. But he wants responsibility and family and stuff. So that's nice. And then two, I respect how he seems to have a positive, or at least presents a positive attitude about the situation that he's in. He's in prison for the next 3 to 10 years. He's counting it as 10. Because he says he's not guilty, and that's not a good look when you show no remorse for being, I guess, released early. And so he's in there, and he granted the first interview in a while. But, I don't know. He's kind of a mixed bag. He's black. Lynn out of Chicago, Illinois. How are you, Lynn?
Hey, how you doing? I'm good.
Hey, nice to hear from you. No man is good.
Yeah, I'm well.
Right on.
Yeah. Oh, given what you were talking about earlier about all the crime and such.
Yeah.
Here in Chicago, we had a young female who was murdered. Her name was Ruth George at the UIC campus, and the murder happened in the garage area of the campus, and that is about 1 block away from the Chicago Police Academy.
Wow, that's awful. Yeah. They don't care about. It's just It seems like it's just brazen now. People just brazenly commit crimes.
you commit a crime, you go to jail, you eat.
Right.
I guess you love to. A couple
If you
guys,
even go to jail for it. Most people get
Yeah.
away with murders in Chicago.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I feel bad if you go to jail and you get the full amount of time. I mean, given you do a crime and they stack you with time, I
Yeah.
feel bad for that guy because all these other guys are doing crimes and getting slapped on the hands. The guy who murdered her was he went to jail for, I think it was scheduled for 6 years. He got out in 2 on parole, and this is what they unleashed on society.
Yeah.
It's very pathetic, and there's really no accountability for that kind of stuff.
Yep.
Yeah, very interesting society we're living here in the great state of Illinois.
Yeah. You know, that's what I don't like about the way that the justice system is run right now, is because people get out easy, and so often they don't get punished right away, right? Like justice should be swift and just too. And so people, if they're guilty and there's no question that they're guilty, and it's like a crazy murder type of thing, then they should get the death penalty right away and no appeals. But they want to do all these appeals, and they have these fake things like insanity. Of course you're insane. You killed somebody. It's not an excuse to murder. Anyways, but
or the cop didn't give my rights or something like that, or it was a false confession, or they got the wrong guy, and
there are situations like that. I totally, that when it's unclear, then you're stuck with keeping them in prison, because what if they're or I don't know, if they're convicted, keep them in jail. And make sure that it's absolutely clear, and don't let any liberals like Marilyn Mosby have their fingers involved, because these people this Marilyn Mosby is into the black thing and the social justice thing. And that's really the worst thing for blacks and all people. And so I'm concerned that somebody may be let out of prison. And they have all these programs that, they're going to make sure that these guys have good mental health care and stuff like that, so that they don't start committing crimes once they're released, because that would look bad on them. But it's still unjust. And I'm not convinced that all these people that are so-called found innocent or exonerated are actually innocent.
I agree. Yes, you're absolutely right about that. Yeah, again, I just feel bad for that poor girl's family. She was like to go to college to become a physical therapist, and for the most part, I hope the best for her family and so on.
Yeah,
it's very unfortunate that happened.
Like college campuses are not safe anymore. I don't know if they ever were really, but people, you have creepers over there, you have everything, and then it's not safe for men either. Because they can easily be accused of stuff that they didn't do.
Well, the UIC campus is situated in a part of Chicago that used to be a very, very bad neighborhood.
Yeah.
And that was back in the 1980s. In the 90s, they started the whole gentrification, whatever the hell.
Yeah.
And the thing is, all along UIC is the medical district, and they have like Section 8, that basically litters the entire camp, surrounds the entire campus. It's like, what are you doing? Why are these people? Why are these Section 8 people right there when you should move into the outlying parts of the city? I mean, they're right downtown.
Yeah, that's awful, man. For those of you who don't know, Section 8 is subsidized housing. That's where the government pays your rent because you're supposedly too poor to pay your own rent. So it just moves ghetto people into the area. Man, that's a shame.
Yeah, and the thing is that the land value of that is high. So again, why are Section 8 people living in an area that you have $500,000 price condos? Why are they living there?
They want. I think I know the reasoning. It's kind of like what Obama was doing with HUD. Thank God that that Ben Carson is in charge of HUD now, Housing and Urban Development, where he was redistributing the ghettos, taking the poor people out of the ghettos, thinking that, oh, it's the ghetto atmosphere that's causing them not to have opportunities and move up in life and stuff. And so they moved those Section 8 people into like the middle class or upper middle class neighborhoods where at least there's not all these crimes being committed all around them, right? Because there's got to be a few decent people that are just, it's hard to move out or whatever in those ghettos. So they move them out, but these people didn't earn it, and they still have this mindset, this ghetto mindset, and it's bound to happen where you're going to have criminals moving in or up-and-coming criminals moving into these nice neighborhoods, bringing those property values down.
Yeah, the thing is, I noticed like with that, you have a guy gets out of jail, he goes to his grandma's house. Grandma is living in Section 8. And, wow, the crime just boosted up. Yeah.
Yeah, just spreading the crime around.
Yeah.
I appreciate it, Lynn. Thank you, man.
All right, take care.
All right, you as well. Harry out of San Jose, California. Harry, how are you? First-time caller, by the way.
This is an Indian student. How are you doing?
Doing fine.
Good. So I would just like to answer the biblical question.
The biblical question. All right, I'll accept that. What is the biblical question again?
I think it was, what would you choose? Would you choose an honorable death or an unclean life?
Oh, all right. Yeah, I like that question. Would you choose which would you prefer? An unclean life or an honorable death? Yeah, I accept that. Go for it.
So I would choose to live.
Now he has no punctuation. I'm just laughing at this boy.
Right.
I think it should have been, which do you prefer, an unclean life or an honorable death?
Yeah.
That's what I would do.
I would choose to live an unclean life, honestly.
Yeah, me too, to be honest. Yeah.
I just wanted to...
I respect the people that say that they would choose an honorable death.
Yeah, actually, the main reason is because I feel that death, even though honorable, stonewalls a person into relinquish his ability to control his life, and from that point, God takes over to assess his deeds. On the other hand, if you choose to live, even though it's unclean, I believe I'm still in 100% control of the effort I can put into transform it for the good. So an honorable death to me looks like an easy way out, whereas living, you can actually transform it from unclean to clean. So it just gives you an opportunity. That's the reason I would choose an unclean life.
All right. That's nice. Yeah. I appreciate that. Yeah, because sometimes you hear about these stories or these scenarios, hypothetical scenarios too, where you're told that someday these bad guys are going to come in and say convert or deny Jesus or die. You would hope that you would not deny Jesus or whatever, right?
Yeah.
But I don't know if people would do that really. I don't know if...
Right, I mean...
Yeah. Some people did.
Yeah,
some people
right.
were killed for that. The early Christians, a lot of them were killed, executed,
right,
rather than deny it. That's cool. I respect that.
Yeah, thank you so much. I just wanted to...
Thank you, Harry.
To that answer. All right, thank you. Have a nice day, then.
All right, you as well. So, let me talk a little bit about Bill Cosby. Speaking of like wrongful convictions, lynchings, stuff like that. I don't think it's because he's black. I mean, yeah, you can say that the protection was removed because he called on blacks to be responsible. And so he no longer had the black intellectuals behind him, the Michael Eric Dysons, accusing him of forgetting where he came from. Because Bill Cosby, I guess there was this famous speech back in 2004. I know he did it, and I guess it would have been 2004. That kind of makes sense. I was still in college at that point, I guess. Or I was finishing, just done with college. But I was on the 5-year plan. I graduated in 99, but then I graduated May 04 from college. Should have been 03, right? If I was stuck with the 4-year plan. But I was on the 5-year plan for college. So Bill Cosby went and said, oh, blacks need to pull up their pants and be responsible and stuff like that. And speak in proper English. I guess he had a whole thing. And this was a very famous / infamous speech back in 2004. And I think it was called the Pound Cake speech. And he was asked about this because it was a black outlet. And I'm glad that he was asked about it because it's interesting hearing what he says about it, where he's telling the blacks to be responsible. And he said, oh, one of the mistakes that I made was I made it sound like it was all of the blacks or black men or whatever were perpetrators or, violators of right versus wrong, right? And it's not all. But he didn't need to clarify that. Everybody knows that it's not all. The only people that think that you meant all are the people that already hate you for telling the truth. That's all that is. That's the case with Jesse Lee Peterson. That's the case with Donald Trump. Even like the Joe Kenyans, the ones that are mad that Jesse Lee Peterson says most. And yes, he uses imprecise language, I guess. But he knows the heart and minds of most black people, of blacks. And when he says something, he means it. There's a deep meaning to it that I don't think that these people see. So it's so interesting. And it's a shame to see Bill Cosby walk that back sometimes. And yet he still pushes the point. He's kind of talking out of both sides of his mouth, to be honest. And then it's a shame too to hear him say, because he's saying, or see that he's said, he's quoted in this Black Press USA. They did a phone call with him because he was, I think, kind of railroaded in this trial where this lesbian accused him of drugging her and sexually assaulting her or something, right? And he did admit to using Quaaludes to have sex with women, but that was a party drug back in the day. It didn't mean, he openly admitted to it. That means that he knows, that means that he's not thinking that this was a rape drug. All right, so anyways, that's just a side note. He had like 50-some women, I think, accuse him of things, which is not evidence. It's not. This just means that he had a lot of run-ins with women, and there's a whole lot of malicious women that would accuse him of stuff. Because what happened between them is between them and him. But they want to get vengeance. They're vindictive. A lot of women are vindictive. So I think that it was because of that. People are like, oh, an innocent man doesn't get accused by 50 women. I'm not so sure, because that's not, for one, that's an accusation, or 50 accusations are not evidence. It just kind of, you could call it a sign. You could call it a sign that he's had run-ins with a lot of women. And by run-ins, I mean either sex or something. But that's not what they're accusing him. They're not accusing him of just having sex with them. They're accusing him of rape, sexual assault, drugging, stuff like that. And I'm just leery. So I think all of that is partly the reason why they voted to convict him on this lesbian woman. Because this lesbian woman was the first, and Howie Manley says, where there's smoke, there's fire. No, because there's all this smoke, Howie Manley. You'll agree with me. There's all this smoke about whites being accused of racism. Where there's smoke, there's fire, right? No. And all these accusations of so-called police brutality, which doesn't exist. Where there's smoke, there's fire? No, I don't buy that. And you shouldn't do that either, to be honest. But I appreciate you. You're a faithful listener. And he also says, by the way, that's not a biblical question, is it? A lot of these people don't like Jesse's biblical, or they're like saying, how is that a biblical question? When he asks some of his biblical questions. But anyway, Bill Cosby, it's been a long smear campaign, and like I said, the protection of the mainstream was removed because he was one man calling on blacks to do right. And when in an era where blacks are getting progressively worse and worse and worse and worse and worse. So he casts blacks both as victims and as disrespectful people, bad manners. So I don't know. They call him a political prisoner. I call it like a hashtag Me Too type of thing, more like a vindictive women versus men who may or may not have been like perfect in life. Sounds like he was imperfect in his life, maybe cheated on his wife, but this is like overboard. And it's a shame too to see the Christians. A lot of Christians will just abandon a man who did have sex out of wedlock and let him get railroaded for so-called rape stuff because, oh, that's what you get for having the sex out of wedlock. Because a lot of the Christians are kiss-ups to the women. The feminism has infiltrated, and the fear of racism stuff too has infiltrated the Christian community. So-called Christian, right? So he's like paying respect to women. I didn't mention this in my news report, Hake News, in the top of the third hour, but he's happy, and I respect that about him. Like he's happy in prison, and he's trying to set a good example and give good advice to these guys. Tell them not to do the hit, not to kill some guy who offended them, because that means that you'll have a dead fella and 4 guys or however many guys it takes to kill these guys in jail. But he calls them, what does he call them? When they're, instead of inmates, he calls them residents. But he found a way to relay messages to his wife and children. He's happy that he has his wife and children. His wife has stood by him, kind of. But he, gives these talks with this man up thing where he's telling the people to be responsible and stuff. And then he paid tribute to women one recent Saturday. And I don't know. I would say maybe an imperfect man, but I still respect him. Let's go to Mike out of San Diego, though. He may disagree. Mike, how are you?
Yeah. Hey, James. I'm good, man. How are you?
Fine.
I'm good.
No man is good, but go for
I'm
it.
Good.
You are good?
You're wrong. I'm good.
All right.
Maybe you're not. I am.
Okay. So what's up?
Look, I mean no disrespect for this, but I'm just going to tell you straight up. You guys are liars. You're just lying.
About?
Why are you always lying?
About what?
So, about the Bill Cosby thing, for example. It's like, look, I love Bill Cosby. I got no disrespect for him. I don't care what he did. I mean, if he did something he shouldn't have with a woman, all right, I wish he didn't do it, but I still love him. But if we're going to say, we think all those women are lying, I don't think they're all lying. I think he definitely did some stuff. It really seems like he did. And to say he didn't, it's like, why would you say that? And I think it's the same. It's like you have this pattern where, the same with Michael Jackson. Remember when Jesse did that? He's like, don't believe it. You don't know.
Right.
And same with Donald Trump. We're like, well, I don't know. We don't know if he did all that stuff. It's like, come on. Yes, he did. They definitely did it.
But there's no. You're saying that Michael Jackson and what's his name, Bill Cosby, definitely did what?
Michael Jackson molested those kids in the Neverland Ranch, and Bill Cosby drugged some women and had sex with them while they were asleep. And Donald Trump ran basically like a prostitute ring disguised as beauty pageants for decades. And
really, I haven't heard that one.
Yes. What? You don't know?
I hadn't heard that one.
Thing. He traveled the world banging young women. That's what he's been doing since the 80s.
But he says that they let you do it. They throw themselves on you.
Yeah, they do. He grabbed them by the P word, you know?
So
he definitely did that.
So you think that these are
and I love all those guys. They're great.
You think that these are the crimes that they're casting them as?
What do you mean?
So today, in these times, these things, and I don't know about the Michael Jackson thing, but let's talk about let's stick with Cosby, because I hadn't really heard that about Cosby specifically, about the beauty pageant thing. But
What do you mean Trump? Trump did the beauty
right,
pageant.
yeah. I haven't heard about the Trump beauty pageant thing. But let's say the Cosby thing. You think that in these times, as opposed to in those times, when it was understood to be a party and sex drug, that that all these women are not just judging by today's standards. Today's standards of so-called rape are very different from the standards of back in the day. Back in the day, it was forcible rape, right? Nowadays, if you don't give explicit consent, it's called rape and stuff like that. And so you think that you don't think that it's a matter of the times, and all these years later, these women, when they have sex out of wedlock, there's like this, there's always this question, I imagine, right? I've never had sex out of wedlock, but I imagine there's always this question of, oh, did I really want to do that? Did I really want him doing that? And it's always been like the role of men, even when they're doing wrong, right? But even when whether they're doing the right or wrong, it's always been the role of men to lead and push and prod and stuff like that. And so the men are pushing the envelope more than the women maybe want sometimes. And that's considered...
Do you think he was just being kind of aggressive with his flirting, and then they end up having sex, and then later on she ends up regretting letting him do it?
I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah, I think it was just more like in the 80s and the 90s, Cosby was a famous, powerful, awesome dude. And if you end up getting, even if you got like violated by him, it's sort of like, well, you know, it was Bill Cosby. And she probably got some money to stay quiet. And then the years go by, decades go by, and she starts getting older. And she's like a grandma age now. And she's looking back, and Bill Cosby's no longer famous and powerful. He's just kind of like a has-been. I mean, everybody still loves him, but he doesn't have a career now, and nobody really cares. So you can throw him under the bus and get another $50,000 out of the guy, cash cow. It's just kind of that kind of thing. But he definitely did it. But the thing is that now, as time goes on, it comes out of the closet. It was a skeleton that was hidden for a long time, because back in the day we didn't have the internet, and we didn't have cancel culture. We didn't have like feminism at the degree that it's at now. And
what do you say about the fact or the claim that Quaaludes, you know, the drug that the party drug that they would take to have sex and stuff like that?
Yeah.
That he would get a prescription of Quaaludes and give these women that was a party drug and a sex drug, black beauties and stuff like that. What do you say to that? What do you say to the fact that, or the claim that that's what that was about? Like he openly, you think that he would openly admit something and incriminate himself? He openly admitted that he gave Quaaludes. He was to have sex. And he wasn't thinking, this is a rape drug.
Yeah, because back in the day, you just did that.
Right.
You give them drugs, and then they go out of their mind, and then you bang them, and then you let them go. And now you're like, oh, wait, we were raping those girls. And back in the day, they were like, yeah, you just, some sluts at a party, and you give her drugs. No big deal. They didn't care.
Uh-huh. Interesting.
So, but that's what they were doing. I mean, he was doing that for sure, and probably sometimes more than others. I mean, you can also overdose them on it to where they straight up pass out.
Yeah.
Sleep.
Right.
But you can give them one or two to loosen them up and get them on the dance floor, and they're happy and giggly, and they just like go along with anything. But you can also like knock them out.
So you hear
if you sneak it into their drink and they don't know, like that's different than, hey, you want one of these pills that's going to make you have fun, and that's the party drug version of it. It's the same thing.
This is all what you hear about. You don't have any experience.
Exactly. I mean, that's all we're going to hear. Nobody's a fly on the wall.
No, I'm telling you. I'm saying because you're not speaking from personal experience with these things.
Oh, but I'm in some shady place. Let me tell you.
Yeah, I don't know. I just say that accusations are not evidence, and you can't prove a lot of this stuff. And so what if a lot of them are having like the same story? Once you hear one story, you're going to come out with a similar story. Why not? The people, I know you haven't done this, but some people say, oh, but all their stories are remarkably, strikingly similar. Well,
my point that I told Nick is actually, this is actually where I'm putting it back on you guys.
Okay.
Is that I see this pattern where you guys are doing this exact same sort of dancing around the facts this way and putting this almost the same defense up only for people who we kind of like. And Jesse's even doing it with Kanye right now.
That's not exactly true.
I mean,
there's a lot of men that we don't like. Epstein, for example, I don't know what he did, and I read these stories, and they're like Daily Mail is calling him a pedophile, and I don't know that to be true, so I just call him Epstein accused of sex trafficking, because that part I know. The rest of it, I don't know.
Right.
And so I don't. And same thing with all these guys. And I don't particularly like Bill Cosby because he's fallen for the black thing and the liberal thing so much. But when I see these hashtag Me Too ganging up on this guy, where you have the whole crowd going against him, I am leery of the crowd. It's just like this Hong Kong protester
Okay, that's
stuff.
fair. I guess that's what I mean. It's not necessarily that you like him, but it's more like you're against the people who are against him.
Yeah, but the other thing is, man, like 50 accusations is not evidence, and this lesbian woman getting her thing, like look at the people, look at the judge whose wife was involved in this rape activism thing. These people are not just people. And then all these accusers, you look at them.
Monsters. Just a bunch of trolls and monsters coming out to go after them.
Exactly.
So, I mean, that sucks.
And so you can't necessarily just go along with the destruction of men like this.
Yeah, I agree with that.
So
I agree with that.
So I may slip and say, oh, I don't believe he did it or whatever. But if I was truly being fair, I would say I don't know, and I'm not going to participate in this trashing.
Yeah, it is a shame that there's just like this anger mob to go after people these days. But
yeah,
look,
look at this. Look at how this thing started.
Y'all liars.
But I don't know where we lied. But this bill,
Jesse straight up told me last week that he believes in Santa Claus and the Easter Bunny. Like, come on.
What's wrong with that? You're going to spoil it for the kids.
Santa Claus.
You're going to spoil it for the kids. You better be quiet.
Come on.
But what was it?
And he says, like, I don't know about Kanye. I don't know about Kanye, man. I don't know yet.
What do you? Oh, you mean whether he's real or fake? Because he doesn't really keep up with this. What do you think that he knows about Kanye?
I mean, like, I don't know. You just look at what's happening for 30 seconds, and then you know. I mean, like, look at it. Just look at it.
No, I mean, he's commented about that part.
I mean,
You're talking about the dancing blacks like they're at Mandela's.
Yeah, I mean that, but he's doing the stand in front of the church and tell people that. Right. I mean, he's just like somebody who is an alcoholic, and then they go to an AA meeting, and they're like, "All right, now I'm not an alcoholic," and then they're just like, "God saved me from alcoholism, and now I'm sober, and my life has changed." But you've been sober for like 5 days.
Yeah,
like preach into the whole thing. Like that's nothing. It's just obviously nothing. But everybody's just all excited because he's a celebrity,
right?
And he's just cashing in on it because he's crazy. He's a crazy guy. And I love him. He's a brilliant artist because he's crazy, but he's just a crazy man.
Yeah. It's nice to see him standing up against the crowd sometimes, but I just, who knows?
Yeah.
Who knows what's really going on in his heart, you know?
But that kind of leans toward my thing, too. It's like, I mean, look how we're going to, on our show here, we're going to kind of hold off judgment on him, and we're not sure. But, I mean, he is the one black dude who wore the Trump hat, and he's standing up against the SJWs a bit. So we like him because he's against the people we're against. so we're going to hold off on him, and we're not sure. And maybe,
I mean,
it's like, come on, just tell the truth. Cosby raped those girls. Trump's a dirtbag. We love him.
Shame on you, man.
And Michael Jackson's a pedophile, and Kanye's a crazy person.
I'm not with you on those, on some of those. Kanye's crazy. That one is okay. All right, fine, I guess. But all right, man.
Hey, can I throw one thing in? I wonder if you hear this. I could say it in 10 seconds. About I heard Jesse had a TPUSA guy yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
Jesse seems not clear on what the Nick Fuentes people are bothering Charlie Kirk about, and they think. And Jesse's asking, like, are you not letting them speak up? Are you canceling the events? Are you shutting them down? Are you keeping them out of the line? And those things might be a little bit true or not, but really the main issue is not that at all. The issue is that these kids are showing up and forcing these kind of fake conservatives or just like economic conservatives, but just basically godless people to answer questions. And we're asking them questions just like Jesse does. They're asked, you know how Jesse will ask a question and the person skates around it, and then Jesse just repeats it and asks it again.
Yeah.
And then they kind of wander away, and then he just says the same thing again because he's making them answer the question, because if they answer it, it reveals what's going on with them on the inside. It reveals the truth if they finally actually answer it, yes or no.
Yeah.
So that's what these guys are doing. They're showing up to the event. It's an open question and answer period. And these guys are such liars. They're like, look, we're letting you answer the question. This is free speech. I mean, we're letting, look, you have the microphone. It's free speech. We're letting you ask whatever you want. But the problem is you're not answering us.
I know.
We're asking you questions we need an answer to, and you're obviously lying because you won't answer the question. So what we're doing is we're like forcing a conversation by continuing to ask questions that they're unwilling to answer.
I got you, man.
They're hiding lies.
Yeah.
Okay, that's it.
I appreciate it, Mike. Thank you.
Right on, Bo.
All right. Later. Maze out of Dayton, Ohio. How you doing, Maze?
Hello, James. I'm just fine today. I have 3 questions.
Okay.
And I'll ask the first one, and then I'll listen for your answer, and then I'll ask you the second.
Nice.
Well, this young man that went and killed this deputy, a law enforcement officer's son, that killed this deputy. What do you think about that?
I don't know this. I don't know the story.
Well, you know all the other stories that go on in this world, in this country.
I'll look it up. I'll write it down and I'll look it up. Young man who killed officer's deputy.
Yeah, they happened in Alabama. He told him to turn his music down, and he shot him in the back of the head. But his fault.
White man?
Well, he shot him anyway. But anyway, we have a conversation about it tomorrow, since you don't know about it, so you have time to look it up.
Cool.
But then when it comes to Bill Cosby and what he's doing, since he said he didn't commit a crime, and do you think some people are upset because he won't say that he committed a crime in order to get out? So evidently, could he be lying or could he be telling the truth?
He could be lying or he could be telling the truth.
So which one is? Do you think? If you're telling the truth,
I'm not gonna. I'm not gonna say. I'm not gonna say which one I think, because it would be irresponsible to say that he's a rapist, and it would be irresponsible to say that he's definitely innocent.
Well, if he must be innocent.
But in this country, you should be considered innocent unless proven guilty. And I haven't really seen proof. I mean, he's maybe done some sketchy things, but sketchiness is not the 3 to 10 years thing.
But
prison
he don't
time.
like his freedom that much that he want to lie and say he did something and apologize. So you find some people that do stuff wrong and they don't want the evidence to go out. They hide the evidence to keep people from seeing the evidence. And if you didn't do something wrong, just put it out there and let everybody see it. And some of these people that are getting out of jail, I don't agree with that.
Yeah.
Because those that didn't commit crime and went to jail because some lawyer or some DA put them there and put it on them, and it wasn't, and they didn't really do it, and they still trying to fight to get out, they still sitting in jail. But the ones that committed crimes, they releasing those people.
Yeah.
That's not right.
That's true.
And they have evidence that they were set up, and they've been sitting in prison for years.
I'm sure there's
and
cases
so
like that.
And Kim Kardashian and these people that she getting out of jail, they should stay in there because they committed a crime.
Interesting.
And finish their time out. That's what I think about that.
Wow, Maze, you're tough.
And you say you should die because you murdered. I don't believe in that's abortion. I don't believe in abortion, and I don't believe in murder.
Death penalty.
Because if you kill somebody, spending the rest of your life behind bars, which you should do.
All right.
But see, y'all want to go kill them. Y'all want to just put death to the people.
Yeah, I mean, it depends on, I guess it depends on the murder, But yeah, I generally.
No, it doesn't depend on the murder. If you kill somebody, you need to be in jail for life. You don't need to walk among normal people.
Yeah.
That's what Christian people should get in their soul.
But sometimes you should kill them.
Crime,
I think you should kill them
is it like Emmett Till, the guy that died for no reason, and the lady now she's telling the truth? They should put her in jail too for lying and having somebody.
What about the statute of limitations?
Statute of limitation, where if she told the truth, the limitation.
I don't know. I don't know that much about the Emmett Till case. I wasn't born yet.
That's what happens when you get a group of confused people that's messed up in the brain, hating people for no reason at all.
Did you ever?
And then they want to control and tell people what to do, and they can't do it anymore, so they're losing their mind, and then they want to go harm people.
Did you have a third question?
My third question is, should people be bothering people that's not bothering them? And saying things to them that had nothing to do and stay out of other people's business. You know, like if you're in a restaurant and in stores and saying stuff that's not your business. And telling people to go back where they came from and just don't know where they came from.
I like the
So
go
what do you
back
think
where
of
you
those
came
kind of
from
people?
line. It's funny.
Well, I don't care about go back where it came from because you came from somewhere too. Your ancestors did just like mine.
Whatever.
Unless you happen to be Native American. Those are the only people on this planet that can tell somebody to get out
I
of
think
this
I have a
country.
little Indian in me.
What?
I think
don't know
I
what Indian is. I know what a Native American is.
We're all Native Americans. We were born here. Anyways, Maze.
That's where you get confused. And I'm going to say it again. Leave people alone that's not bothering you. Stay out of their business when they in line purchasing whatever they purchasing to see what they got in their grocery bag because you don't know how they got the money
Where
and where they got it from. Always look for EBT card or whatever you call it. And they
You're
have
going to
one
buy all
themselves.
that with food stamps? She sounds like she's like traumatized or something.
I don't know. I don't know what food stamps are.
All right, Maze. I appreciate the input.
Yeah. Yeah. So save yourself and leave people alone. Stop
All right.
going out doing being night riders and harming people.
Night riders.
But that's
There's that
have
word
a good
again.
day. Yes.
Are you a
Yes,
night
have
rider
good
from
one.
a sundown town? She hung up. All right, let me quickly tell you guys about this global tax. I promised it. I don't want to be a liar. So Drudge reported dawn of a global tax. And I said, what the, as Joel would say. Nina Trentman writes in the Rhino Outlet Wall Street Journal. I just have to always call Wall Street Journal Rhino Outlet. But I don't know what that has to do with this story. But there is a proposal for a new global tax system for consumer-facing businesses. And consumer-facing businesses are like, huge businesses that sell to consumers, basically. And people say that there's a lack, the representatives or tax representatives from these consumer-facing businesses say that there's a critical lack of details, yet they still want an agreement by 2020. It's ridiculous. The Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development. What a disgusting name, right? Better known as OECD. OECD, Organization Economic Cooperation and Development, which is running this initiative, was scheduled to meet Thursday and Friday in Paris to discuss a proposal that would set a standard tax rate for a company's global operations and allow individual governments to tax profits above that based on sales accounted for by each country. Current regulations look at where companies are based and where they hold their patents and brands. So it's dubbed the unified approach. Isn't that a safe-sounding name, right? It would apply to companies with annual revenues of more than 750 million pounds. 750 million euros or euros, better known as $830 million. So annual income of that, revenue. The OECD has 36 member states. And to answer get a jobs question, I don't know who would get this money. Maybe the OECD would get this money. Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development. But that's crazy. By the way, I told you about this DOJ is moving to halt the judge's ruling that Don McGahn must testify on the Trump stuff. The Justice Department asked a federal judge Tuesday to put a temporary pause on her ruling, that black judge, that orders former Trump White House counsel Don McGahn to testify in the House impeachment probe, saying it needs a delay to pursue an appeal. That's cool. All right, guys. We'll be back tomorrow on the Hake Report. Hope you watched Joel Friday's premiere on the Gifted of Dance channel. I caught it. It was cool. And I heard that next week there's going to be some even more yelling. Joel yelling at white girls. All right, guys. We'll see you soon. I may have a 90s show for you on the Jesse Lee Peterson channel. Maybe tomorrow, maybe today. Who knows? So look out for that. That'll be this evening, 5 p.m. Pacific time, roughly, maybe 6:15. We'll see. All right, guys, take care.